From the most southerly event in the Mintex series, round 2 took competitors to their most northerly location and the Anderson Cars Renault Granite City Rally. David Galander's had ambitions to make it 2 in a row.
Well, we're trying as hard as we possibly can, but Murray and I are just swapping second for second. I mean, the long clash, he only beat me by 1 second. I mean, 17 miles in 1 second. I mean, it's tough.
How does the power of the two cars compare, the Subaru and the Escort?
Well, I think with this new restrictor system we've all fitted, horsepower now is down to 300 horsepower, irrespective of what engine, so we're all round about the 300 horsepower now. So really there's no power advantage here.
In fact, Chris Mellors had done his best to spoil the local party by setting fastest time on the opening stage 1 second ahead of Galander's. But when he dropped 13 seconds to Grierson on the next stage, Mellors felt his Pirelli tyres were just a little too hard for the conditions, and a vibration in the X-Works Escort soon signalled problems with the rear diff. Mellors returned to the service area with a challenge for his crew.
For the last 2 or 3 stages, it's been getting noisier and noisier, and eventually in that last stage it sort of failed altogether. We just managed to get out of the stage and trying to sort it out now.
So what happened? You just put a new one in and you've got time and everything?
We haven't got a spare with us. Malcolm hasn't got a spare, so we're just going to try and repair the old one. Just having a look at it now. So that could be it.
Quite a tall order, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really. In about 10 minutes.
There were no such problems for Murray Grierson, just one overshot junction and a loose steering column casing, which had fallen around his ankles, an experience which he described as quite interesting at 100 miles an hour. But what of the battle with his rivals?
It's pretty quick. It's David and I, there's nothing between us really. It's a second here. He took a second off me there. We had one good stage where we took 9 off him. Chris Mellors, much the same.
By his own admission, Steve Hill was off the boil and unable to stay on terms with the front runners in his Mitsubishi. Matters weren't helped by a puncture on the second stage, which cost he and co-driver Stella Boyles 2.5 minutes. To make matters worse, they'd be plagued by electrical problems later in the day. They'd eventually finish in an uncharacteristically low 11th place.
They're going better now. We had a puncture in the long stage a mile after the start and decided to drive on it. Well, it was the right thing to do, but we dropped 2.5 minutes. So it's a question of catching up and trying to get a few points, really.
Trevor Smith won this event in 1991, but on this occasion he was complaining of handling problems with the Escort. Brian Lyle was using Michelin run-flat tyres on the flinty stages and was well on the pace despite the odd driver problem.
I think I just started in the wrong frame of mind, and it basically just got worse. So we were slow through there. I think perhaps maybe 6th, 7th fastest. But before that and after that, we've been, I think, in the top 3 or 4. So we're lying 4th just now. I've just had some good news. Chris Mellors has broken his diff. He's putting in a standard one, so hopefully it won't last. It's not very sporting, is it?
Reigning Scottish champion Mike Horn complained that his Sierra was too highly geared. But despite this, and the odd moment of over-exuberance, he'd finish in 7th place. Following a succession of problems, including a puncture and a drive shaft pulling out at the end of stage 8, Jeremy Eason was relieved to collect 2nd in class. And that was more than George Gould would manage.
I think it would drive, it's all cosmetic, I think. The mechanicals would be fine, so it still drives and runs, so if we can get it out, we'll keep going. Obviously, it's a wee setback.
It took 10 minutes hard labour by the assembled spectators to get the car back on its wheels and the crew on their way. But despite all their efforts, Gould and co-driver Roy Campbell would retire soon afterwards. Excessive tyre wear wouldn't prevent Roger Duckworth taking 6th place in the 2.9-litre Sierra. Meanwhile, Murray Grierson stepped up his pace in the second half of the rally to break the deadlock as he pulled away from David Galander's and Chris Mellors. Mellor's service crew had worked miracles rebuilding his rear diff in record time to keep the car in the rally. He rewarded them with a late charge, snatching second place with a blistering run through the final stage. With Mellors 13 seconds quicker than anyone else on that stage, David Galanders learned that he'd lost second place by just 2 seconds. Despite a late spin which cost him 15 seconds, fourth place went to Brian Lyle ahead of Trevor Smith. Steve Smith had completed 2 stages with no breaks, but survived to take 10th place in the Lancia. While Jeremy Eason was celebrating his second in class.
In 1993.